Wow, the colors, Gordon. Oh, just I think that what's brilliant about this entry is not just like the orchestration's very 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 cool, but the mock-up also has just it's just so gorgeous. This that ending just killed it. I mean, it just was so awesome. All right, so as people may have been gathering, I'm probably going to stop mentioning this soon, but since we're only into our first half dozen works or so, I am going to be analyzing these works in reverse. So basically, starting at section E, and then jumping back to D, and then jumping back to A through C. It just because there have been so many analyses that started at A and then work their way forward, and I think it's kind of cool if we focus more on the ending and the climax, and then there have been so many things said by now about the first half of the piece that those comments can come last. Right? They're less priority, and it's better to catch me at my freshest. So yeah, just kind of looking forward to E. I really appreciate that you keep things strong. Um, I think that it would be really important here. I think Morendo is not enough. It's like you're saying, dying away. But I mean, that is inherent in the diminuendo hairpin, right? So like I think they're gonna like you. I'm not sure if you mean niente or whatever you mean, but like I would say just probably the best thing to do is to like forget about Morendo, have a destination dynamic of triple P, okay, and then everybody can manage that. Everybody can go down to a very very soft point and then just round off the note. And everybody end together in a way that would make you maybe almost wonder whether or not you had heard a niente hairpin, right? I mean, there's no need to gild the lily, though. It is better just to have everybody kind of decay and die away in a really, really natural way and allow the violins to remain playing. All right? And I'll have some more to say about the harmony and about everything else in a little bit with this, section D. But going forward, you're starting off with just very actually very plain simple scoring. You've got a B octaves, a triple B octave right in here, and then ba doo 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 with our cellos and double basses, and then kind of holding on to that, you sort of trade off. You sort of build in certain things into just like the time signature is kind of fun, and then instead of having the ending with the 16th notes, it's done a slightly different way. So yeah, bass clarinet and then bassoon, taking it even higher. That all works great. Now, kind of getting deeper into the some of my critiques, some of my criteria, I should say, not critiques. I think you pretty much managed the front end really, really well. It was a good fade, lack of clarity in the dynamic marking, but it was a good fade. Very cool, having like a triple octave, and then having the bassoon become the prominent element. Now, I'm not so sure about, I mean, yeah. I mean, it might be kind of cool to let the bassoonist breathe right here, right? And same thing with the English horn player, just rather than slurring the whole thing across, which is, kind of a to be honest, it's really more of a of like a pianistic kind of a slur. And I really love what you did here, though, with where you had the thirds instead of jumping up, like instead of these being flute thirds, jumping up and then kind of arcing over. You started off with English horn and oboes, and then descending with the flutes coming in on top. It just was so beautiful, and the clarinets below. Just really beautiful, wonderful, rich, but simple notes. All right, and then da 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 da. This was so cool. The bass clarinet doubling with the cellos down here, just really nice. And then of course the violas don't need any doubling with the way that you've scored this. Just the overtones and do all the work really nicely. And then violins stacking on with the piccolo just really softly on top at pianissimo. That worked really beautifully. I thought your very subtle use of piccolo as a coloring agent worked pretty well. I might have a few comments, wondering whether or not it's being overused. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but we'll talk about that later. But I think it's used really beautifully in these subtle places. Now, the original piano score has tenuto marks on these notes, and not that really translates in the context of a soft solo in these instruments. But I'm wondering if there's some way of sort of articulating this that kind of, it implies something similar, kind of pushing the notes a little bit. And I thought this was really well managed. Da 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 bum bum. I would say don't cut the viola doubling here, because it helps to connect the kind of implied leap right in here. Right? But you do keep this prominent. You do keep the horn in the background. I think that all works. And this is so cool, the way that the oboe emerges out of the flute part, and the bassoon kind of emerges out of the string parts and so on. So I think that it might be cool to have maybe a slight fade in, right, with these parts, so that one kind of more seamlessly emerges from the other. I mean, you've already got that. It's maybe no need to engage in overkill, but it just might be kind of nice to, if you could sort of hear more clearly the two timbres trading off or merging one into the other. All right, and this is just so well done, with just all double reeds playing this little chorale, and just a nice middle part there in the English horn, and just very cool scoring. All right, now maybe just a little bit of a fade at the end. Da, 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 da. Just a little tiny bit of diminuendo at the end. Not diminuendo, yeah, diminuendo. And then here you have solo violin. I kind of liked your sound set, except the harp kind of sounds like a guitar here. And I mean, I realized that some of these notes are part of open guitar tuning, right? D, G, B, E, right? But I kind of, is there some way to improve that? I don't know. And rolling on the beat, and then is there a difference between these two, right? I guess slower. All right, and then oboe. And I feel that this is a little clumsy. Here I feel you should have the English horn slur down, right? To the written F sharp, taken over by the viola right in there, just so that there's kind of a seamless, a sinuous line that goes through, just kind of walks across those timbres and sort of hands one off to the other, kind of, rather than just this kind of a jolt, kind of a really big difference between the two players. Right, here you've got a dovetailing note too. So maybe the violas could come in and play that sounding D right there. Yeah, and I thought that this was just beautifully handled right in here, with the harp playing through to the this kind of hovering notes, and then right at the end you add a little chime plus the middle winds right in here. That just knocked me out. It was really, really well done. Both, it's really well done on the score. It's just a very powerful thing in your mock-up. I don't know if you ever have any plans to get this performed, Gordon, but like if you don't, then I think you should steal this idea and put it in another piece that you know is going to be performed. Something similar to this. But yeah, maybe about the only thing is just a little bit more nuance in some of these lines. Da 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 da. There's that push is implied. In fact, there's a doloroso there with a crescendo mark, which kind of didn't make it into the score, right? So like there's more opportunity for and in fact, like you also left out the hairpin right in here. So you kind of oversimplified the dynamics a bit. All right, maybe put some things back in. Now here, back at D, I feel that this is really inspired. It's the kind of thing I wish I'd thought of. It was very, very cool that you took the cascading part and you kind of came up with your own solution, your own interpretation. And I like it a lot. The one thing that I would say is like I don't feel that this cuts it. Like just this one little bit of bass clarinet going bum bum. I think that there needs to be more involved here. You've got a lot of players just going do. You know what I mean? You don't need all of them, I don't think, just holding down this low F sharp. I think some of them could be joining and maybe start the little doo 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 kind of thing. Just to sort of, I don't think it would distract at all. I think it would actually strengthen it and make it feel more vibrant, more lively, to put back some of the left-hand part that you took out. I don't think you need this is sort of the a transcription of the left-hand octaves that start off. Are those separate or are they anticipatory? Right, as I put in my evaluation criteria. So I think that if you already have this here, then this is just laying it on thick, and then we kind of get no leaping around in those octaves, and it is an issue because you don't do any leaping around here, and then this is just solid kind of foghorns, right? Which is what Barvinsky gave us, and I'm not critiquing you about that. So yeah, so I just feel you need more than just a couple of toots on the bass clarinet, right? I don't think that's quite enough to get the sort of level of nervous excitement and ambiance and good feeling in this part. I will say that it was a very, very cool idea, just like little touches, chime, boom, tush, I think that's kind of a cool little rhythm that you've got going in there, just as long as it's kept softer, right? I mean, there's like crescendo, you're saying, to forte. I think by the time you got here, that the tam-tam in particular would start to really interfere with what's going on. Chime, not, but just, I mean, it would really like kind of kill this, rising up to this next part of the D section. Okay, so just really watch out for that. Now, also really nice kind of dovetailing forward of functions from C into D. Okay, just, that's really, really well done, really nicely connected. Okay, so the cascades are pretty cool, and I also love these tremolos, these these kind of downward arcing tremolos, and the little tremolo here in the middle is very, very cool. So here's our melody, A2 oboes. Now, do you really want, doubled oboes there, unison oboes? You want that kind of harder edged sound? as opposed to like maybe if is it enough to just have a single oboe there? But then I'm looking at ahead and saying like, well, yeah, you do have English horn and doubled horn below, and yeah, like the oboe is kind of in danger of being swallowed. So I mean, it's not going to be as sweet of a sound as what's implied by the rest of the orchestra. But I do like the combination of the horns here and the bassoons and English horn and oboes on top, right? So it's a guarded sound. It'll be more about the horns than anything else, but it's not bad at all. And yeah, and that pretty much is everything, isn't it? Except for just kind of like the low notes that I talked about just a second ago. And then here it's just sort of building. You just with the middle voice pushing ever further. Da 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 da. And then I really like the trading off. It's so cool. But I think if you're doing this, you just really do have to have more going on here in more support for what's happening in the bass clarinet, and it has to be more extensive, I feel. So like you have all of these instruments playing a foghorn, you've got unused trombones, you've got there is like, what's wrong with having the contrabassoon and the tuba just continue to hold the tone while the cellos and double basses help out a little bit with the bass clarinet, and then going back to holding at the beginning of the bar and so on. Like there's ways of doing this. The way that it's scored right now, there might be kind of more of a static. Well, I mean, there's already going to be a bit of a static feeling because of just so much emphasis on that low F sharp, and not really very much motion in the bass, right? And then here we get into this where like in the piano part, the left hand is dancing all over the place, doodle doodle doodle, right? And it's just really, and you've just really gotten rid of all of that stuff, right? And I feel like the excitement, like what you're trading is like you're kind of getting a kind of a grand sense of anticipation, but it isn't like that kind of the real like kind of committed momentum that we hear in the piano score. Oops, that was colorful. But it's still kind of, I mean, it's nicely scored. Tuba, and the stuff and these tremolos and so on, and contrabassoon on the bottom there, and our bassoons. I think it has some really nice qualities. It's very very massive scoring. It's the other risk here too, right? Is like that you are giving away the massive scoring that is going to happen here, right? Like the kind of exploding outward. But I mean, you do have some builds here, like in the you have a tam tam build, you have a timpani build. Just kind of curious, like looking at this tam tam part, piano crescendo to forte bash. So you really do want to just you're not going to do this, right? You're just going to let it. You want the player to cut off after one bar exactly, right? And then these. That's pretty cool, actually. All right. Yeah, so really dense, really thick, really rich scoring. And I think in the last evaluation I was talking about how, like, in a place like this, it might be better just to have octaves in the strings rather than to have them richly harmonized. And here I would send your first violin all the way up to the piccolo, right? They can certainly play a high B. If you're going to have this note here. Now, you don't have to have it. But I think it would just really give, like, just kind of that. Maybe the E's a little too far. Anyway. Yeah, so here we get into some awesome stuff. Now, something that you probably noticed to your dissatisfaction is that these flurries didn't really come through very strongly, right? And that is because they are being overwhelmed by the overtones of your horns right in here and the trombones and so on, just like yeah, ba 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 ba, right? They're just it's really all this barking stuff. It's going barking mad, right? So it is really like taking over the sound picture. There's kind of a lack of kind of an articulation style here. Are these accented? Are they staccato? Are they just normally articulated notes? Or probably the conductor would just say, hey, can you guys play that with a slightly accented staccato, please, right? Or marcato or something like that, right? I feel you just need more guidance here in terms of the articulation. Otherwise, it's just da 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 da. It's like it doesn't really have a lot of character. But notice, my fellow viewers, how Gordon has not left a gap right here, right? So like Gordon, you really manage these little arcs really nicely, right? Without just like kind of following exactly what was in the piano part and treating the rest that happens right here because of playing the octave in the right hand as or just because of the more emphasized part in the the left hand does not actually have to rest, but it does so in order so that the octave will stand out in the right hand. So you don't need to do that here. You can just you just throw in all the notes that need to be played. You might not even need to put the ones in the middle either. But I can see why you were doing it, because you want to sync with what happens after the flurries. Okay, so like back to the flurries. Like, why aren't they working? How could you make them better? Okay, well the thing is that like I feel you're wasting a resource here. I think that pretty much everything that you are doing here with the piccolo and I feel that some of this could be shuffled around, right? Like I think that you could be elevating a lot of the information here in your flurries so that it was higher reaching, so that so maybe it would be like flutes and piccolo, right? And just pushing higher, maybe harmonizing things up a bit, and then like then instruments that had like a stronger middle range or had like a kind of more piercing quality, like maybe the clarinet or maybe putting in E flat clarinet could be doubling the violin part right in here. So I mean that just would be one way of kind of shuffling around things. Or you could this could have been like you were already up to your limit on clarinets, but like what if this had been an E flat clarinet part instead of a flute part or something, or what if so there's just a bunch of different ways to do it, but the main thing is like it's just getting swallowed up by the intensity. It's a great idea, and I did something similar in my score, but yeah, you just really have to watch out for the kind of like the constant barking of these chords. And I think that the bass drum hits are great. The tuba and double bass and contrabassoon and bass clarinet all working together, that's all very cool. Yeah, I wonder if there's like maybe some way that the timpani could be a little bit more active in here, kind of like playing along or emphasizing or pushing into the next bar, or just to kind of keep it from just being the approach in every single bar from being a carbon copy of the last one, right? That's the big danger with this. So like you can have a really brilliant approach in one or two bars, and then like if the approach just keeps going the same exact way, then after a while it's sort of like, oh well, all right, I get it, right? Like you don't want the listener to not you don't want the listener to be able to predict what's going to happen next, right? So anything that can bring some variety into this, into like the approach is strong, don't get me wrong, but anything that can bring some variety into this, I think would be really welcome and would help to break up some of the regimentation, right? That is just going to fall into place once we work something out and then continue to do it the same way over and over again, right? So even with the flurries, right? The flurries could change where they are in the bar. They could connect things. They could swoop up to high notes. There are a bunch of things that you could be doing with them. Oops, I keep going the wrong direction. But yeah, and then once again, I felt that this was very, very strong. The way, da 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 ba 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 ba. It just was. This was really one of the nicest ones that I've seen so far. Really, really great. And then, like once again, Morendo doesn't mean anything. Just go triple P. And this piano. Now back at the beginning, you have this really great trick. Yeah, adding the fifth really softly. I would, I might drop it in the background even a little bit more, so it's more of a feeling and less of of an equal note with everybody else. And part of that is just because of the power of the piccolo, but power of the piccolo. That sounds like a self-actualization workshop, but but the piccolo. Not only is it going to be brighter, but like since you're continuing on with that strategy for many bars, right? You're really kind of going on for a long time with it until you get to this E here. Maybe it'd be better if it were just a little bit, just a little submerged. You know, like just like pianissimo, or just you know, you might even just say like a little under the oboe or something like that. Just really bringing it back, so that it's not, but maybe not hugely, but just more subtly, right? Make it a little bit more subtle, and then I think that it's not, it doesn't just sort of get stuck in the ear. I mean, the danger is not so much that in a mock-up like this where you can control things so much better that that it'll be a problem, but the danger is more that like in a live situation the piccolo might really ring out. Yeah. So anyways, but just looking at the scoring of it, I'm just really liking what I'm seeing here. The distribution of the parts, the way that like you have the little seeming 6/3 chord, which actually is not a 6/3. It's just like it's a realization of a six chord. But like the way that you share that, like you have the melody note, and then the mediant of the chord shared by the first and second clarinet, and then you have the root in the bassoons, first bassoon, and then like oboe on top. That's just such a beautiful color. Like once again, just really, the colors are coming through this mock-up beautifully, and they will work great. And then here, like to continue on, and to kind of give us an alternate color for the overtone, the added overtone that is implied by the piccolo. That's just powerful. And then bringing everybody back in. So it's a great example of what I am, hoping to. I'm aiming for the progression of timbre in the melody and the accompaniment, just to really make sure that it tells a story. It doesn't just kind of get stuck in one place. And yeah, and then yeah, the dynamics, like I don't think you really need to do this crescendo to mezzo piano and then back to piano. You could get rid of both of these markings, right? All you need is just the little crescendo marking, right? And leave it to the players to decide how much that swells, and the conductor, right? They will figure it out. Like you could throw this in here because you don't have a preceding crescendo, but in the other places, they don't need this. They don't need handlebars. They can figure it out. Right. And then just these perfect, just little touches here. A little roll on the harp was absolutely perfect. Just everything that it needed. Roll on the harp, and the descending bassoons. Right. It was just really done well. And then right in here, like a more complex texture, but not overdone. Right. And a good. Yeah, so you're going down to pianist triple P here. I would possibly do the same thing with the horns here. I might say piano diminuendo to triple P, right? And just so that it didn't push too much into the picture here. And the same thing possibly with the piccolo on top. All right, so then after this, we have this what's going on here. And you know, here I might have like longer slurs rather than sort of chopping them up so much. You know, it would be nice if you could figure out a way to like not repeat notes, and then you don't kind of slam into a place where you have to stop the bow and restart it again. There's some way you could reinterpret the flow of these string parts, so that they could, you know, you could just really do like half a bar, like the players could do half a bar with one bow and then the other half with the next bow and so on, just to make it really smooth all the way across. Yeah, and I like the combination of the bass clarinet with the violas and so on. I think that works pretty well. That's nice, and the cello, very very smooth, and the middle voice coming in here. And I like the fact that you didn't leave any gaps, right? You know, no question of you know, phrases interruptus, as I mentioned before. Just, you know, maybe over literally interpreting the left hand rests that were in the part that compensated for the ability of that hand to reach over and play the middle voice. You know, just you managed to avoid so many things. It's very very cool. Why do we have a slur here and a slur here and not a slur there? You know, there's really kind of no difference in the character here. Yeah, octave clarinets. So this is something your mock-up is not telling you, is that this is going to be a bright. It's gonna slightly twist the audience's ear, and you know that really goes along with the piccolo overtones here, right? So yeah, so leave that the way it is, but just be aware that in concert it's going to be a little, just slightly edgy, right? As in edge of the teeth. Here, I do not think you need to suppress the dynamic of the horns. Like here, I think that it would work better to have them in more background. But here, I think that this works really, really well. Horns in conjunction with the clarinets, you don't want them to be too underpowered. And then when the bassoons come in, it'll all work together. It'll all balance really nicely, you know, and especially with some of these strings in here. So yeah, so this so far, pretty nicely done. Now here, when you go to these bassoons right in here, doubled and then taking the middle voice, I think that's really strong. You know, just like it's a nice trade-off with the color. But the only thing that I would kind of wonder is whether or not the color could continue to sort of trade off in here. You know, whether or not you could swap functions, right? So like bassoons and then cellos with the bassoons holding the note down here and so on, just to kind of give some variety, because like after a while, you know, there's like a, it's kind of like, it's sort of like Barvinsky is kind of thinking of two separate things, right? He's kind of going back between, you know, this and maybe this. No, I kind of like this better. No, maybe it's this, right? So I think that like some difference in color shading might work really, really well. See, like you're already kind of dipping down on the horns right in here. Could there be something, well, just everybody is of course getting a little submerged there. Could there possibly be like a shift of color as well that would kind of bring out that shift of dynamic? And then this was such a surprise, you know, just the you know, the abruptness of this. I would almost just say, like, just, you know, increase the insult here by saying secco, you know, just like that kind of thing. Just like really make sure that it's just really bright and tight. And yeah, so tempo rubato espressivo. So you're kind of writing it in expression text size, right? So just make sure that these tempo markings, system text is like in large, bold, irregular text, not italics. All right, and then here I would like try see if you can monkey around with your mock-up to really bring this out, right? Because as it is now, it just feels really mechanical. And the one thing that I would really say in here is like, is there some way that you could make like okay, so the problem here with the cello line is that, like, in order to fit everything into the range of the cello, you've made a bunch of compromises, kind of jumping back, and it doesn't really stretch across however many octaves that is. I'm sort of checking out the part. It's like about 3.5 octaves, right? So what I'm wondering is how much you could kind of shift some of these notes, like maybe go lower E then lower A, right? And then yeah, I mean, I think that there's just ways of like not making it so quite so compromised, right? Maybe there's just a way of kind of getting more lower notes in, and maybe just taking these a little farther up before you come down. And you might be surprised at just the expanse of how far a cellist might want to go. I had a couple of gestures in the orchestrations that I just did recently where the cellist was just really crossing 3 octaves of range, and they did it just beautifully and easily. They had to practice the hell out of it, and they were practicing it even during like at rehearsals. Like the principal cellist, knowing that he was going to have to lead everybody on this merry dance, like just kept working on it over and over and over again. And then when we did it, that moment happened, and one of the best cellists in the world, certainly one of the best I've ever worked with, just knocked it off, and the whole section followed him, and they had a beautiful time. So I would say just see how much you can stretch this across the entire range of the cello, right? And maybe preserving some of the original. So I'm just looking at this. So E, A, and then G, E, and so on, and then this go. So right. So like maybe like kind of dropping this down so you have more range to kind of go up and then take it a little further. Do you know what I mean? So like try to take, like, after this A, take it down an octave if you can, and then rise from there, and then see if you can go a little bit higher when you get to the top, right? And then you might be able to really cover like the entire solo if you just drop it an octave after the A. You can go all the way up to top E in the top space of the treble staff, right? And I think that you would just get way, way more out of it, and just amaze the audience, and the cellist will feel your principal cellist will feel really happy about it too. But once again, try to see how long you can make some of these slurs, right? Best practice would possibly be like, I'm looking at the character of it. If there's any way to do it like on the half bar, I think that you just get the most smoothness and the best range of expression and so on. All right, and then all this stuff above, it's very, very cool. And the allargando, it's just a pity that wasn't in the the rubato, and the allargando was not in the mock-up, because it would have sounded great. Yeah. And I would not let this get too loud. What I would do with this is like try to have maybe fortissimo. I would say subito pianissimo, right, and then piano espressivo, and just really push on these. Like they could crescendo up to mezzo forte. Right, and then this should push into. I think by the time you get to here, this should definitely be a mezzo forte again. So just like also have a broader range of dynamics in here. Right, start softer. Like piano solo cello is gorgeous. Mezzo piano solo cello is slightly less gorgeous. I'm not going to say it's boring, but it's like it doesn't quite have the same expansive level because you've already put it in the gray area of mezzo piano, right? So just see how much flex and see how much range you can get out of this. But yeah, what's so cool about this is just how easily this fits into double stopping, with the open D above, and then just like fingering the A, and then fingering the A flat, and then just open G, right? So it just fits really nicely. just so long as it's not going too fast. And then finally we get to this place right in here. And this was a nice interpretation of calm surface over restless undercurrent. About the only thing that I would worry about is any kind of sameness as before, right? Maybe this would be a really great opportunity to lighten the texture a little bit, because you've had kind of nice thick textures before. You've got a fairly heavy bass here, like triple octave, and with support from contrabassoon and bass clarinet, and then you've got sort of this thumping away with the tuba and timpani, and and like add on to that flute, the clarinet, trombones, then like that's why you can barely hear the harp here. And increasing the dynamic of the harp to forte, and having like more hairpins in it and so on, is still not going to solve the problem that the trombones are kind of eating up the harp right in here. It's almost to the point where I would possibly recommend like simplifying, maybe backing off on this, maybe sort of choose one or the other, either tuba or timpani. Trombones at pianissimo, maybe lose the violas, and maybe lose the contrabassoon, and then leave everything else the way it is, and just more nuances in the harp, right? And then I think that the harp would stand out beautifully. Then you can lay on some more texture as you start to push into here. So those are my thoughts on your piece, on your orchestration, Gordon. And wow, you're becoming such a familiar face, and it's so great hanging out with you, and in the community, and I just really appreciate the amount of work and inspiration and calculation that you put into this, and and also how you helped us support a lot of very troubled musicians right now, who don't know what's going on. Maybe we'll make their lives a little easier, and thanks to all of the Patreon crowd who helped out with that and who participated in this, or whether you participated or not. I really, really appreciate your support, and just really so glad that we had so many great entries to to this challenge. So thank you to that. Thank you for that. Thank you, website subscribers. Thank you, viewers. And I'm hoping that you are able to cope with this torrent of uploads. This is one of those things. People might have remembered that I was just really kind of expressing some self-annoyance and a slight sense of dread about the way that the year was shaping up, and this was kind of the way that things would kind of end up here. Really pressurized over these last couple of weeks is kind of not what I wanted. I wanted a more gentle stream of uploads, giving people time to react and comment on each other, and giving me time to also react to people's reactions, to to chime in and to agree and to add little editorial notes and so on. And I'm just really not getting the time to do that with the way everything's shaping up. But look, this is the 2022 orchestration challenge. It's not the 2023 spilling over into the 2023 orchestration challenge. So I'm going to see if we can get this all done here on this last month, well before Christmas. So I'm planning some kind of finale event, not a finale, neither a finale nor a Sibelius nor a Dorico event, but the grand finale of the orchestration challenge. So possibly Sunday. I'm kind of looking ahead. Well, I'll make an announcement about it when it comes up. But yeah, possibly Sunday the 18th. Right, that's not too close to Christmas. So anyhow, hold on to your hats, folks, because here comes some more of these, like a couple more of the compilations for our website subscribers, and just a 3 dozen of these amazing, awesome, incredible, fantastic entries that you sent me.